Chargers fans, I got some bad news for you. The team is still going to be rebuilding this roster in 2025. Why, you ask? Well, I've done the research. So let me explain to you exactly why the team's going to still be rebuilding in year two under Harbaugh in this week's episode of Chargers Corner. Let's go. All right, Chargers Corner, episode 1 of the offseason. And like I said in the intro, I've done the research. And I have to tell you, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but the team, based on its needs, the free agents that are leaving, that are no longer under contract, the position that you need to upgrade, is going to be a very difficult task to get this team to a contending status in 2025. Now, I understand that this team in 2024, with a makeshift roster, won 11 games. But keep that in mind. Those 11 games, I'm not sullying the idea that they won 11 games. It's a great feat, and Harbaugh has done a great job. But you have to recognize that 11 wins was on a fourth-place schedule. You're playing the worst schedule you could possibly play because you finished fourth in the division the previous year. So that being said, look at the teams you beat and the teams you did not. You only had 2 wins against playoff teams, and both were against the Broncos. Everybody else that you played that were but playoff team you lost to, including the Texans to a 20-point loss in the playoffs. So having to put in that perspective, I believe this team is still in a work in progress. So why do I say that? Let's get right into it. Let's talk about it. So the Chargers are in a rebuild for year 2. This is part 2 of it, I believe. 2025 is going to be another rebuild year. In all honesty, you have to take it for what it is. And, we have to understand what we have going on, what's going to be needed, and what's going to be need to be addressed in the offseason. It's a lot. It's a little bit of an uphill climb if you look at the roster in its entirety. So when we talk about guys that are leaving, guys are staying, who's on a contract, who's not. So let's talk about the free agency perspective. So let's start off with who's leaving, right? So starting on offense, you're losing Taylor Heineke, who you traded for. You lose Easton Stick, so you lose both your backup quarterbacks. You're starting running back, you're losing Josh Palmer. Your receiver, you're losing DJ Chark, Jalen Reagor, Simi Fioco, so you're losing 4 receivers. Hayden Hurst, you're also losing as a tight end. And you're losing Bradley Bozeman in free agency as well as a 1-year deal center. So that's the offense. Now, defensively, you're losing Poona Ford, Tierra Tart, Morgan Fox, Khalil Mack, Denzel Perryman, Christian Fulton, Asante Samuel Jr., Eli Apple, Tony Jefferson, Elijah Molden, and Marcus May. That is a lot. That is a lot. I think they have 30 in total free agents that are leaving or no longer under contract for 2025. So who do you keep and who do you have to let go? I mean, that is the question you have to ask. And from my perspective, I think you should keep certain guys and think some guys you should let go. So on this list is not many offensive guys I would keep in all honesty. But I'm going to give you my list of who I think you should keep. So starting off with that, I think you should keep J.K. Dobbins. And reasoning being that, one, he was very productive. I understand he's injury prone, but I would keep him at the right number to have a starting running back in the room. I'm not a fan of Gus Edwards. I don't think, even though he's under contract, I don't think he adds the firepower that you need as a running back, as a number 1 running back. So I would not lean on Gus Edwards as being your number 1 bell cow running back. I would, if you have to keep him, I would use him with short yardage, but I would do what I can to bring back J.K. Dobbins on the offense. I would definitely try to do that. I understand he has big time injury history, but I think he likes it in LA. I think he likes Harbaugh and the organization. So if he can come back at the right number, I would bring him back. I would surely bring back Poona Ford and Tierra Tart. Their run stopping ability and the way they played in the interior of the D-line in this year in 2024 was great. I would do my best to bring them back at the right number as well. I would bring back Morgan Fox. I like his utility pass rushing ability. He gives a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. You can kind of move him around and use him in different pressure packages and things of that nature. As a utility guy, I like his skill set. He is getting long in the tooth, but at the right number, in a small 1-year deal, maybe I would bring him back for 1 more year. I would definitely bring back Tony Jefferson. I think Tony Jefferson does not get enough credit for the amount of plays that he made down the stretch, filling in for the likes of Elijah Molden and Alohi Gilman when they were hurt. So I think that Tony Jefferson, because he still wants to play football, because, again, he was out of football before he got brought back to the Chargers, I would bring him back. I would definitely do that. I think he's a good playmaking and very savvy, experienced veteran free safety. And I would love to see him and Elijah Molden both come back and play those deep safety roles for this defense while Derwin James plays more slot corner like he did and made the Pro Bowl at this particular past 2024 season. So I like bringing those guys back. I think mainly defensive guys I would bring back to kind of fill out those voids that you're missing. But my goal would be to overhaul the offense and bring back who you can and what you can defensively to help build this roster back up to 53. All right, so moving on from the players I would keep, the players I would cut. Flat out, I'm cutting Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard. Why say cut them when it's still on the roster, it's still on the contract? I don't think at this point, because there were 6-round picks under the old regime and they have not produced. They have big time coverage and tackling issues, and those two things don't make for a good DB in this league. I think it's just time to cut bait. I think they aren't built for the Harbaugh regime. I don't think they will add value to this team anymore. I just think in certain cases, certain instances, you got to get the air quote stink out of the room. You know, some guys are just not built for the new regime, and there's nothing wrong with cutting bait with guys that you didn't draft. And people do it all the time. So I think that you just should cut bait with these guys. I don't think you could put them on the open market for trade and nobody would take them. I mean, outside of them being both fast, running 4.3 40s, they don't bring much skill set to the table. I mean, again, they both have coverage issues. They've both gotten exposed quite often when they've been on the field. And yet again, I think, they both have tackling issues as well. That's been a problem. And that's one thing Harbaugh does not like. And I think why he drafted Cam Hart and Taib Steele for the express purpose that they were bigger, rangier, longer corners, and they can tackle well. Cam Hart especially. Cam Hart is a hitter. I think he loves the physicality of those guys. So with the resurgence or the ascension of those two guys, I think Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard are expendable at this point. So I would get rid of both of those guys and just let them cut them and save the money and free that money up for free agency. Now, who I would get into the idea of talk about trading, who's on a contract. I talked about Gus Edwards earlier. I would try to trade Gus Edwards if I could. I would try to trade anybody that's looking for a short yardage power back, to add compliments to their running back room. If you get anything for him, either a slower in draft pick or this year, next year, and or a player, if you can get something for him, I would put him on the market and trade him and save that money. Quentin Johnston, I've spoken ill of him quite often, and I'm not off that train. I really am not. I really think that he has issues that are highly problematic to be a pro receiver. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, he is tall, he is fast. I think he does well after the catch, but the problem is he can't catch the football. He cannot catch the football. But maybe you can sell him somebody or another team on his cachet in college and his first round grade. Some people just like the fact that they're first round picks. They might go for it. They might bite on the idea of trading him for something for pennies on a dollar. So I would deeply consider trading Quentin Johnston. He's not good at contested catches, nor is he good at catching the ball that's away from his body. Not being a hands catcher and not being good in contested catches, I'm sorry. That is two big no-nos in my book. I'm sorry. Quentin Johnston, the experiment is over, ladies and gentlemen, for those people that still support him. I think it's time to move on. I really do. I don't want to harp on it too long, but I think if you can get something in the open market for him, fine. But you have to trade him because it's too punitive to cut him at this point. But trading him, it would not be as punitive. Trading versus cutting is different in the league, how contracts work. So if you trade him and get some for him, I would do that. The same thing with the three interior linemen, Zion Johnson, Trey Pipkin, and Jamari Sallier. If you can get something for them and it's not punitive to trade them or cut them at this point, I would definitely try to get something for them. I would not let them go outright because you're going to need that depth, but I would definitely look to upgrade a position in the interior center because you're losing Bozeman and the two guards. All three of these guys are horrible in pass pro. They're horrible at pass protection. I will give Jamari Sallier and Johnston a decent grade as far as run blocking. But I would even give Pipkins a good run blocking grade. He's bad at run blocking. So I just don't think he fits the bill and what the Chargers want to do with this new regime. So I would try to trade all three of those guys if I could and get something back for them. So then that leads me to Joey Bosa. I'm really done with Joey Bosa at this point in my life as well. I think that at this point in time where his contract is, he's very tradable at this point. I would not let him go. I would not cut him, but I would try to trade him if I could and get some draft capital back for him. In all honesty, I think that his injury history and his lack of production from a sack perspective is telling at this point. I think we've seen enough. I think that he does not give you what you need him to give you for that price point that he's at. If you're a $20 million or more edge rusher, I need 10 plus sacks out of you each year. And he gave me half of that. 5.5 sacks. He didn't even lead the team in sacks. Eight and a half by Tuli was the lead. So I need more production out of that position, and the simple fact that he is not a more of athletic edge. He struggles against mobile quarterbacks, much like most D linemen on this team do. His speed is a concern for me, his injury history, and his lack of production from a sack perspective. Especially when you have a guy like Khalil Mack on the other side, you're not getting double teamed as much. You need to be able to be more productive. So if I could trade Joey Bosa, I would. I would do it in a heartbeat. I really would. So if you get something for him, fine. If you don't, you keep him on the team. But I would definitely look to upgrade the edge position if I can. And lastly, Alohi Gilman. I would try to get something for Alohi Gilman, maybe a low-end draft pick or something like that. I've never been high on Alohi Gilman, in all honesty. I think he lacks the athletic ability to play the position. He's got caught too many times flat-footed and not able to get to the football from a free safety position. His range is limited. So I would argue that if you could trade him in certain facets and maybe move on from him, I would do that. But yet again, I wouldn't let him walk, but I would try to trade him if I can. Even in the package deal, if I could package up hypothetically a couple old linemen and him to get a good, mid-round pick, I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. So that's just my take on it. But again, don't let these guys walk in the building for nothing. But if you can get something in trade for them to help build this roster back up and upgrade positions, I would do it. Left you in suspense, I know. But come back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Lockdown Divas Sports Network for part 2 of what I would do for the 2025 Chargers offseason, who I would draft, who I would sign, and what the outlook is going to be for the team next season. And as always, subscribe to never miss an upload.